Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everyone. This is Lori Smith, and I'm glad to be here. It's One Child to Be Survivor to Another Restoration. It's Thursday, August the 11th, and 6:30 here in the morning. I'm just waking up, having a coffee, trying to wake up here. Sort of missed my first alarm, sort of slept in a little bit, and just kind of getting ready here for the day. I hope you're all doing well, and I wish you a really good day today. This is just a show. We're just going to look at, how we're doing on our healing journey, and continuing on what we're looking at, mainly from Havoka.org, and also Michael C. Irving's site, Child Abuse Survivor Monument. So that's what we're doing, and I'm thankful for people who are tuning in. I appreciate everybody who's listening, and I hope, if you're a survivor, that you'll just reach out and get some help and not suffer alone, and know that you're not alone, really. And there is help out there, right? And so we'll get right into this. We left off yesterday, morning reflection. How am I doing this morning? I actually haven't been awake all that long, so I'm not really sure how I'm doing this morning. I actually feel pretty good. Not bad at all. And just glad to be making some progress, a little bit of progress to start out with, because some changes need to happen, for me to take better care of myself as a survivor of abuse. I'm the only one that can do this, and I'm glad that I'm actually getting started on it again, because I don't want to leave it where it was. And I need to do a little bit better care for my body, for my physical care, as well as just all of my whole care, spiritual, emotional well-being, right? So feeling pretty good that I'm actually even doing this. If you're not, you have to do a safety checklist, really, first of all, if you're a survivor, and you want to do a safety checklist to make sure that you're safe enough, really, to listen to this show or to listen to anything about abuse or anything like that, because or adult survivor issues, because you don't want to trigger, and you don't want to go back in your healing journey. None of us want to do that, so you want to go backwards. You want to go forward, or at least at a steady pace, kind of progress along. And so you have to do a safety checklist, make sure that you're safe enough to be listening to something like this without it triggering you and, causing you to maybe want to self-injure or hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, right? ASCA Survivor to Thriver Manual has a great one, 60-something pages long, at least 60 pages long, I know that. And I read through that, a long time ago, and it's so important to make sure that you're safe enough to actually be listening to something like this, right? So if you're not sure, you should check that safety checklist out on ASCA Survivor to Thriver Manual, the Morris Center program. It's a free manual. You can download it, or you can just read it right online. And make sure you get that information and keep yourself safe, right? And so we'll look at Victim to Survivor to Thriver this morning. This is from Havoka, help for adult survivors of child abuse. I'll have to get you that real complete link. And let me see if I've got it right here. Irving Studios. They shortened it to helping adult survivors of child abuse, or something like that. And sometimes it's actually, they have it spelled out there. But it's www.havoca.org. They have a lot of great info on their website. And so I'm hoping that everybody will go and check that out. I didn't realize they had so much good information there, but they really do. So we'll be looking at some of that. And but they have a thing that's called Victim to Survivor to Thriver. Yesterday we looked at the victim might feel damaged or is damaged, survivor naming what happened. The thriver was wounded and now healing. So I'm more of a thriver in that one. Victim, and then this one here this morning, is maybe has confusion and numbness, right? Might feel numb, confused, right? Survivor is learning to grieve, grieving past a grieved trauma. And then the thriver, this would be grieving at current losses. So survivor, learning to grieve, grieving past a grieved trauma. So victim would be maybe confused and numbness, and I never really had that going on in my life as a victim of child abuse. Wasn't confused or numb at any time. I didn't really do that. I was angry and was stuffing the anger and stuffing my feelings, and so I wasn't really numb, but I was just I had a rage that was always boiling within, that I knew one day was going to be spilling out at some point. And I had a lot of self-loathing and a lot of that type of thing going on. I wasn't really confused or numb as a victim of child abuse. I was really devastated, really, at how I was treated as a child, and watching my siblings be abused, and the dysfunction in my family, and watching my family be destroyed like that was horrific. And I wasn't confused or numb, really. I think when I was maybe really little, might have been a little bit of that going on, really young, like under 6 years old or something. But after that, it was very much cognitive because I had to be aware of what was going on. So I couldn't be in a state of confusion or numbness, really. Later, I did a lot of drugs to actually create some numbness because I needed to actually be able to relax and to get to a space where I was numbed out or a little bit, that sort of thing. But I naturally wasn't doing that, and I think that's probably why I actually turned to drugs to do that. Survivor, learning to grieve, grieving past, to grieve trauma. That's what where I'm at really right now. I think I'm just grieving. I'm still grieving somewhat. My inner children are grieving the loss of everything. Really, they lost their childhood. I did, not just they, but we. I'm still grieving, in some sense. I'm a lot better off than I was, like I say, about 9 years ago when I first started my healing journey. I was in a horrible situation. Still grieving past a grieved trauma. Yeah, I definitely am still grieving. This thriver mode would be grieving at current losses. And I think I'm sort of halfway in between there because, I do just grieve current losses too, but I'm also still grieving the past and the abuse, right? So I'm still in the survivor mode there. So it's interesting to take a look and see where we're at in these things, right? Havoka has a section called, it's like a little, some information about trust there. Trust tab somewhere on their site there. I grabbed this. It was really quite interesting. Looking at trust. And so we're looking at that. I want to look at we looked at the first section, trust, looking at our inner abuser or maybe our inner critical parent, right? Earlier in the week, and then we looked at learning to trust yourself yesterday. Now we'll look at their section that they've got here, learning to trust others. And they say lack of trusting yourself can manifest itself in a lack of trusting others, and ultimately a lack of trust in your relationships. So they said many victims of child abuse are fearful of expressing their emotions, inner needs, and feelings. As a result, there is a lack of communication, and this includes not talking about the abuse and results in that veil of secrecy being extended and reinforced. And perhaps it is because to show emotions is like a show of weakness. Perhaps you are afraid of complete rejection. It says, do you think your partner has the time to deal with the abuse you suffered? So that's all very interesting to me because it's it just hits the mark, Learning to trust ourselves, learning to trust yourself can manifest itself in a lack of trusting others. And I really had to learn how to trust myself, my own decision-making skills, because I was kind of running from a self-made disaster to another as an adult, right? Because I was always self-sabotaging relationships. I leave first because that way, just knowing as a survivor of abuse, just had this inner child of mine, inner children, the inner person that I am, does fear rejection and does not want any more rejection. So I leave first. And that way I get to break off the relationship and it doesn't hurt. And so, as soon as I, as an adult, get into relationships, I immediately want to destroy them, because that way I'm the one not getting hurt. See, and that's a real problem for people. I think I had to learn how to stop doing that, but I also had to learn how to trust my decision-making processes, and I needed to set boundaries so that I wouldn't be abused again. I wouldn't be allowing myself to be re-victimized. Right? It's very important. So they're saying many victims of child abuse are fearful of expressing their emotions, inner needs, and feelings. And survivors of abuse know this, but the outside world who hasn't been abused may not realize that. It's a real problem for survivors of abuse because we were not allowed to express our emotions many times, and I know I wasn't. So, now I feel like if I expressed emotions when I was a child, I was abused, I was beaten, and just beaten up, kicked around, I wasn't allowed to open my mouth, actually, without possibly being abused some more, right? So as an adult, I have a real problem saying what I need. Say, except even at work, it's a real problem. Saying how I feel about something, my emotions, inner needs, feelings. Any type of relationship I'm in, actually, I have to be really watchful for that, because it's just ingrained in me and trained within me that I don't have a voice. What I say doesn't really matter. I don't count, and I just deserve to just be kicked around, right? And I know that that's not true as an adult. And so it's hard. It's hard for many people out here. We need to make sure that we have to feel safe, in these relationships. And like I said, if we don't want to be re-victimized, we need to know what to look for. We need to know the signs, really, of abusive type behavior, and to make sure that we know we're not being abused. You know what I mean? Again, re-victimized, because sometimes we don't recognize it. Because I grew up in abuse. I was born into abuse, and so that was my norm. That was my natural state, was being abused. So, later on in life, it was just normal for me. So I meet other people who might abuse me. It's just normal for me. That's fine. I'm used to that. I'm used to dysfunction and craziness and abuse, right? So it's really difficult then to say, what was that? What is that? What were their behaviors, and what was my response? And so I did a lot of work on this in the last 9 years. I mean, a lot of work. And, I wanted to learn how to trust myself, learning to trust others, learning to trust myself. And in order to do that, I really had to do some real research and find out what I was doing, and what other people do to take advantage. So John Bradshaw's books were very helpful, I'll tell you that. John Bradshaw, Healing the Shame That Binds You, and also Homecoming, Healing and Reclaiming and Healing Your Inner Child. That one was really helpful, as well as Robert Burney, Codependence, The Dance of Wounded Souls. There's so many people out there, learning to trust others. I mean, there really are a lot of people out there who really are quite mentally ill, have emotional problems, and we run into them. We may not know that they have these problems, and they seem like real nice people. And then pretty soon, before you know it, as a survivor of abuse, we're used to being victimized. We're used to being not able to express our feelings and emotions, right? We may be being taken advantage of by somebody who has their own set of emotional problems and mental illness or whatever going on. And they, in turn, abuse us and they're in an adult situation. And then the relationship ends bad. It may not be us at all. So just remember that. There's a lot of really kind of mentally ill people out there. There really is. I've met many, many, many. And now what I do is when I meet people and, I like to give people a chance. Don't treat me with respect, and if I don't feel safe around them, they're not in my life. I just cut them out because I'm not going to take abuse from anybody else, right? So we have to really be careful, and we have to be careful that we're not hurting people. I want to be treated properly. I want to be treated with care and respect and concern and compassion and everything else. So I need to give that back. I need to give that first, actually, and then expect for that to come back. But if I get into a relationship, even a friendship with somebody, or even a working relationship, we need to make sure that that we're not getting abused again, but we also need to know that if we want to be trusted, we want people to trust us, we do have to, try to, we have to set boundaries first of all, but then give people a chance. But then if they do start to show their true colors and that they're abusive and their behavior is abusive, we can do something about it instead of just sitting there taking it. As a children, we were forced to take it. Now as adults, we can do something about it. And we need to be our own best advocates, and we need to be our own best caregivers, because nobody else can do this for us, right? So it's kind of interesting. They said this includes not talking about the abuse and the results in that veil of secrecy being extended and reinforced. That's why I started talking about it. I was like, I'm talking about this, I'm sure that my family would have loved for me to keep silent about all of this, our story and everything. And I only have a couple of remaining family members left, and I really don't care what they think. They don't care about me, so I really don't care what they think. And but so many people are in a situation that's a little different. There would be maybe huge problems if they came forward and stuff. So we don't always have to tell everybody, openly about the abuse. What I would say is if a person is really in a situation where they can't really tell people about the abuse, there are anonymous websites where you can get anonymous help for survivors. There's websites, survivor websites, that are anonymous. You can use a fake name. You don't have to tell people your real name, and you can get help. There's different ways of doing it, and just don't, realize that you're not alone. And we do have rights. We do have the right to get help, and whatever help it is, right? So we need to be our own best advocate, really. It says perhaps it is because to show emotions is a show of weakness, and perhaps we're afraid of complete rejection. Now that's a real problem for me. I've got huge issues with rejection because my parents both of them rejected me, but mainly it's from my mother rejecting me as a baby, as a child, right? And I wasn't given away for adoption. I was just abused and called a rape child and abused, right? So it's to show emotions, like to show a show of weakness. A lot of people might feel that way. If I show my true emotions of what I'm really feeling, people will think that I'm weak, or that I'm such a sort of a person that just can't handle anything, you know what I mean, or something. And that's just not true. When a person's been abused, I mean, we've been through, many of us, the ringer, you know what I mean? Like if we need to show emotions, then we should be allowed to show those emotions. It's in a proper area, in a proper setting. That's why it's really important to get help, right? And I mean, as far as rejection goes, that's my main problem. So even in friendships, relationships of any kind, even working relationships at work, it's this old fear of rejection. And I mean, sure, people are going to reject me. I just may as well just realize that as an adult, we're always going to be rejected. There's always going to be rejection. Someone's not going to like us. Someone's not going to want us around. Someone's going to possibly be hurtful. And I just realized that later on in my healing journey, as I started doing my healing work and stuff, that I need to stop putting so much care on how people feel about me. And I need to start thinking about how I feel about myself, and stop worrying about what they think and start paying attention to what I think about myself, because that's the most important thing. I really don't care anymore what other people think. If they like me, they do. If they don't, they don't. That's too bad. I'm getting too old for this kind of stuff. And what I had to do was learn how to love myself and take care of myself. And I mean, sure, I want people to like me, and I always treat people with respect and kindness and dignity. And like I said, if it doesn't come back to me in that way, and it just comes back crass or negative or, almost semi-abusive behavior, then they're out of my life, and there's no loss there. Because I want good people in my life. I want decent people in my life. I want to be treated well and decently. And even at work, it's the same situation. I mean, sometimes, at work, because you need a paycheck, you got to sit and take the mental illness coming from whoever these leaders are within the business. And it's like, well, that's life. It's unfortunate, but there are many people out there with all kinds of emotional and mental problems that are running things. And, there's not much you can do about that. That's why we need to believe in ourselves. We do need to trust in ourselves, and we need to care about ourselves and not spend so much time being concerned with how other people feel about us. You know what I mean? Because that's a real problem. I've been doing that my whole life because I was abused as a child, and really wanting and needing somebody to be that parent figure, the one who's going to take me under their wing and care for me and take care of me and want to be around me and, and all this stuff. It's just that little inner child still searching for love, right? Searching for that care and that love, right? So it's a real problem. We can do it in all of our relationships. If we're not careful, we can do that. We need to actually learn how to love ourselves and care about ourselves. And, when we meet good people, that's good. Treat them well as we want to be treated. And then if we meet people who are abusive, put the boundaries up. Don't let people be around us that are negative and hurtful, right? That's ridiculous. It says, do you think your partner, this is a question they have here, do you think your partner has the time to deal with the abuse you suffered? Many people in relationships, I mean, it is a huge issue for people. I don't know for myself. My husband of today, I've been with for 20 years, actually, and I didn't start my healing journey until 9 years ago. He knew about the abuse, and he knew basically what had happened to me mainly because I told him. And he saw some of the scars and stuff, and I did tell him I used to have nightmares, and I also left him for a year and had to explain, my situation of why I left him, and there's all kinds of stuff going on in the beginning of our relationship, and he does know. Does he have time to deal with it? He's not. He's very supportive, but he can't really help me on this because he's never been abused. He doesn't have a clue what I go through. He was loved by his parents, and his parents just loved all their children, and they took care of them, and they weren't, it's not like they were some multi-millionaire family or anything like that. They had their own struggles, but they were really well looked after, and they were not abused, right? And he was wanted. He was a wanted child. His parents loved him and wanted him. So he doesn't have a clue what I'm going through. And he doesn't know. He doesn't know what that would be like, to be rejected by your mother and to be abused by both your parents. I was rejected by both of my parents. And then they could have let us go when the courts got involved, and they were brought up on abuse charges, but they didn't. And all of my I'm the seventh sibling born. All of us suffered in this, and I'm just the last born. I was just the last convenient punching bag. So, and they were just, it's just, what are you going to do? So, he has no idea, right? He can't really help me with this stuff. What he does do that's very supportive is he lets me be me. So when I'm in doing whatever I'm doing in my healing journey or whatever I need to do and whatever I'm going through at the moment, he allows me to be me, which is really, really helpful. He doesn't expect that I'm going to be somebody else. He knows I'm wounded. He knows that I'm trying to work on healing. He lets me be me every single day that I wake up, and he wakes up. He doesn't put any kind of demands on me to do this or change or be this way or try to be a different person. He just takes me every day as I am when he wakes up in the morning. So it doesn't matter whether I'm having a good day or a bad day. It makes no difference to him. He treats me the same way every day with love and care and concern. So he's emotionally well. He's not an emotionally unstable person. So he's well. And so he just deals with me every day. He just allows me to be me, whatever I need to be doing and feeling, right? That's very helpful to have somebody around like that. I love my husband very much, and but he's a good man. He's just a really good man. But not everybody has this, and it's unfortunate. It is hard, especially when the other person in the relationship, whether it's a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, doesn't understand it, doesn't want to deal with it. That's a real problem, and I really feel bad for people out there who are in that situation, because I've been really blessed to be able to have someone in my life who is willing to give me some space to do what I need to do to heal, right? So, I just, I wish that for everybody. So we've kind of gone a little bit far here in, as far as looking at this trust section, but we won't have much time to look at anything else, but that's okay. I can look at a positive reinforcement. What am I doing right in my daily walk? I'm still doing looking at the breathing work and stuff, but I haven't done much, and it's only been a couple of days, but I'm happy to be doing that and on the right track here. And I could know that my creator, my maker, loves me, right? Yesterday's was I have many talents, and today I just know that I call him God. My God loves me, and if I believe that, I could walk around all day saying that, but if I don't believe it, it's not really going to help me out. I actually know that my Creator loves me. That's actually what got me through it from killing myself and taking my own life, was the fact that it doesn't matter to me if nobody else on the planet loves me or if anybody on this planet ever loves me, because I have a relationship with my Creator, with my Maker, and I know that He loves me. So that, to me, really is everything. That is what gets me through, because I don't really worry about anything else. I know that He loves me. And because I didn't have a relationship with Him before, because I cursed Him because of the abuse and all this stuff. I talk a lot about that in the past on my shows here. I just know that He loves me, and that's what gets me through, really. It's a good thing to know. Self-care, what can we do? Taking care of ourselves. Well, we can get sleep when we need it. We can use aromatherapy. We can get a facial or a massage, get reflexology, eat something good for you. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to work on getting a little bit healthier here. We could go for a walk, do a meditation or relaxation exercises. Listen to what your body needs and ask yourself if you need to eat. Now, that's not a problem. I don't need to ask myself if I need to eat, because that's all I really do is sit around working and eating. And, I've probably put on like 20 pounds in the last 2 years. So I really got to take that off. It's hard on the body. And this is kind of where I'm at right now, taking care of your body, this section. It's very important to get sleep. I've never slept well as an abuse survivor. Many times survivors don't sleep well. There's so many of us who I'm sure if you're a survivor of abuse can totally relate to this. I don't sleep well at all. If I get any sleep at all through the night, it's a miracle. And I'm not going to use pills, because I don't want to use pills to dope myself up to sleep. And so what I have certain things that I do that I know if I do these things and actually maintain a certain schedule, I can just about get like 4 to 5 good hours of sleep a night, which is good, because it's more than I used to get. And I have a hard time. I can't sleep any more than that because my body, the physical injuries to my body really, after about 6, 7 hours of sleep, of laying down, my body hurts so bad that when I wake up in the morning, I can't move. Like it's very, very incredibly painful. My rib cage, I mean, I've got damage to my whole body really. And so it's just too painful. I can't sleep more than 5, 6 hours. But as long as I can get close to 5 or 6 hours, then that's good and I'm happy. And then I wake up and I'm not so stiff. I'm still in a lot of pain when I wake up, but it's not as bad as if I lay there for 8 hours and actually sleep through. So, it's just what it is, But yeah, I mean, it's important to do these things. I really want. I'm looking at meditation and relaxation exercises. That's what I'm actually kind of focusing on right now is breathing, meditation, and also getting some exercise. So, going like walking for me is not a good idea because of my ankle and my hips, but I can do other things, and there's no reason why I can't do some other things that are more beneficial to me. And I do need to take better care of myself and eat proper, good food. I used to work on that a little bit better, but this last couple of years is really hasn't been too good, like I said, because I dropped the ball, just let things go, and kind of not been taking care of myself. So that's why I'm working on this stuff. And Avoca's Survivor's Bill of Rights, we have, let's see here, yesterday's was to have faith in your powers of self-restoration and to seek allies who share it. And this morning is to trust allies in healing as much as any adult can trust another, but no more. To trust allies in healing as much as any adult can trust another, but no more. That's right. You have to be careful who you trust and who you tell your information to, I'm telling you. And you need to know that you have rights. It is empowering to know that you have rights because they have rights too. We all have rights. I have the right to feel safe in a relationship. I have the right to be treated properly, correctly, kindly. And so to trust another person, an ally in healing, as much as any adult can trust another, but no more. So we don't want to start setting people up as these people who are going to be the people that help us and who really are going to be the ones that are going to do this for us and they're going to love us and they're just going to, because that person is probably going to let you down at some point. You know what I mean? Because people are not perfect and nobody can really do this stuff for us. We have to do it ourselves. And so to have an ally in a healing journey, I mean, that's great, but we can't really, you don't want to put all your trust on, and that you want to make sure that you trust them as much as you can trust any adult, but no more. So in other words, we don't want to idolize these people in our lives because it puts pressure on them. They put them on a pedestal. Sure, things go great for a while, but the minute they mess up, then they're off the pedestal and then hurt feelings, and it just makes for a problem in a relationship. And you don't want to do that. Just trust allies in healing as much as any adult can trust another, but no more. I really like that. I think that's important for people to know. We do have to be careful with that kind of stuff. Have I done that? Absolutely. I think probably most survivors have done that. We have to learn how to behave and how to deal with these relationships, right? Personal Bill of Rights. I mean, yeah, because I didn't know how to deal with relationships because I was abused my whole life, really. Charles H. Whitfield, MD, Healing the Child Within. We're looking at number 8. I have a right to make decisions. It's actually my right, and it's my, I really should be making decisions for myself, right? We need to be our own best advocate. I saw that on several websites when I first started looking at healing information from a healing journey, and it says we need to be our own best advocate, right? And here's a quote. We won't have time to look at anything else. We've got about a minute left. This is from BrainyQuote. I really like BrainyQuote.com, and they said you can use their stuff as long as you just tell where you got it. I got it from BrainyQuote.com, and it's our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. That's Thomas A. Edison. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. And the most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. That's awesome. I really like that. Thomas A. Edison. And it's true, I realized that when I decided 9 years ago that I was going to live and not die and reach out and get help. The greatest weakness, the biggest loss would have been me giving up because my abusers would have won had I given up. And I knew that. And I was like, they won with my brothers who committed suicide, And 2 of my brothers died by their own hand because of the abuse and the dysfunction. Everybody blamed it on other stuff. But see, I knew my parents were brought up on abuse charges. But the world just likes to put the blame out elsewhere. But, I don't. I just put the blame where it belongs. And so our greatest weakness lies in giving up. And the most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. So that's what I'm telling you. Every day, get up. You try one more time. You never give up. Never. And it's hard. Reach out, get some help. If you're struggling, call a crisis line. Do whatever you have to do, but do not let the abusers win. As a survivor of abuse, man, I'm telling you, we have to win this fight. We do. Actually, I've already won it because I decided that I'm staying here and I'm sticking around. I'm getting help, and I hope that that's what you'll do too. God bless you all, and I really hope you have a wonderful day. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.